Okay, let's just jump right into this explainer. Today we're unpacking a highly controversial, but honestly, deeply fascinating text by Ryuho Okawa called The Truth Behind World Conflicts. Now, our goal here is to completely impartially unpack its bold claims. Whether you agree with its premises or absolutely not, the way this book attempts to explain complex geopolitical struggles through this esoteric, multidimensional lens is just incredibly unique. We're going to break down exactly how this text frames modern history, mapping out its arguments so we can really understand what it's trying to say.
So the core premise of this book is, well, it's not your standard political science treatise, that's for sure. Instead, it presents a spiritual debate. The author claims to actually channel the spirits of major historical and religious figures. We're talking specifically about Archangel Michael, who's represented as the protective force of America and Christianity, and Muhammad, the founder of Islam. The text essentially uses these channeled messages as a framework to explain the hidden spiritual realities behind modern geopolitics and clashes of civilization. To make sense of this massive scope, we're going to cover 5 key areas today: wars for global justice, evaluating President Obama, Islam, Christianity, and rights, spirits of the ninth dimension, and finally, Earth from a cosmic perspective.
All right, let's get into Section 1, Wars for Global Justice.
The text's core assertion here is that the spirit of Archangel Michael views the modern military conflicts in Iraq and Afghanistan not as political blunders, but as an absolutely uncompromising fight for global justice. In the text, Michael references the attacks on the World Trade Center and the Pentagon, arguing that if the world's strongest nation just sat back and did nothing, similar tragedies would multiply. The stance here is relentless. Justice, and what the text calls God's will, must be pursued literally regardless of the economic or physical toll.
Building on that idea, the text explicitly assigns America a spiritual mandate. According to the book, America is fundamentally required to act as the world's police. Now, this isn't just about foreign policy. The author frames it as a cosmic necessity to provide a deterrent force. The text argues that without this strong, sometimes military pushback, what it defines as evil and terrorism would go completely unchecked, just spreading across the globe.
Moving right along to Section 2, Evaluating President Obama.
So the text takes a very specific view of President Obama, noting his tendency to retreat from conflicts in the Middle East and seek appeasement. But what's really fascinating is why the text claims he does this. It asserts that his soul is deeply tied to historically oppressed minorities, specifically mentioning the spirits of Africans and Native Americans. Because of this spiritual empathy for marginalized groups, the book claims his natural instinct is to pull back from that aggressive world police role and focus instead on healing past wrongs.
But here's the crucial point the text makes next. It's about the office of the presidency itself. The author argues that regardless of a leader's personal soul history or their natural inclination toward empathy, taking the oath of office comes with an unavoidable geopolitical mission. The book suggests that the U.S. presidency has a fundamental duty to maintain global order that simply cannot be abandoned, even if the person in power deeply personally wishes to step away from military conflict.
Okay, Section 3, Islam, Christianity, and rights.
Historically, most world religions have life cycles of, 2,000 or 3,000 years. However, Islam is created a mere 600 years after Christianity. The author argues that having two major world religions existing simultaneously so close together in their historical timelines inevitably leads to deep structural friction. It's kind of like a spiritual turf war that the text suggests was basically baked into the timeline from the 7th century onward.
Now, we must impartially note that the text takes a very specific and highly controversial stance here. The book asserts that Christian civilization is currently better equipped to advance human evolution. It argues that modern concepts of human rights and freedom were championed by the West, while it critiques Islamic civilization as currently lacking innovation and, in its view, sometimes suppressing basic human rights through ancient penal practices.
To justify this stance on human rights, the book goes all the way back to the Old Testament. It highlights the concept of God breathing life into humanity. The text argues that because humans possess this breath, like a piece of the divine, a divine spark, we must act like civilized beings. According to the author, this divine spark is the true foundation of human rights, meaning humanity has to reject barbaric practices and continuously evolve toward a more enlightened state.
Let's dive into Section 4, Spirits of the Ninth Dimension.
This requires a massive paradigm shift. If earthly beings, presidents, nations, entire civilizations are just players on a board, well, it begs a huge question. Who exactly is giving the orders?
The text claims there is a vast, unseen spiritual bureaucracy managing human affairs. So let's look at how it breaks down this chain of command.
The book claims there is a very distinct division of labor up in the spirit world. Entities in the 8th dimension, like Archangel Michael, act as the heads of practical affairs. Think of them like military chiefs of staff. They make judgments, give commands, and actively manage the defense of civilizations. On the other hand, the 9th dimension entities operate entirely differently. They do not micromanage at all. The text compares them to kings or emperors, providing broad directional oversight and observing the grand scheme without getting bogged down in daily tactical skirmishes.
To put it simply, these 9th dimensional entities are portrayed as the ultimate spiritual architects of our world. They are the ones who assigned missions to major figures, set the grand timeline of religions, and hold the ultimate authority over Earth's evolutionary path. They represent the macro vision, while the 8th dimension handles the messy, day-to-day realities of planetary management.
And finally, Section 5, Earth from a Cosmic Perspective.
Here is where the text expands its scope wildly, introducing literal extraterrestrial elements. It even mentions groups like reptilians, stating that there are souls with origins from other parts of the universe currently here on Earth. The book suggests that the grand spiritual hierarchy is actually managing the assimilation of these cosmic souls into Earth civilization, basically trying to integrate their unique traits into our ongoing human experiment.
This striking quote really captures the ruthless nature of this cosmic management, attributed to the protective spirits managing Earth's progress. They literally view themselves as surgeons. From their vast cosmic viewpoint, cultures, practices, or civilizations that resist progress and cling to what the text calls ancient regressions are seen as diseases that delay planetary evolution. A surgeon must cut these away so the host, meaning Earth, can survive and grow. Ultimately, the text builds to this grand conclusion. The claim is that all of this, the brutal wars in the Middle East, the clashing of massive religions, the invisible spiritual hierarchy, it is all aimed at a single cosmic goal. Earth is being forced to evolve. The spiritual management wants to elevate our civilization so we can officially join a broader galactic community. To do this, the text argues, we absolutely must eliminate ancient, regressive behaviors and move entirely beyond flesh and blood tribalism and primitive conflicts.
Which leaves us with a truly wild thought to ponder as we wrap up this explainer. If we view our earthly geopolitical struggles through this highly esoteric cosmic lens, treating wars and cultural clashes as the surgical growing pains of a planet being pushed to evolve, what exactly is holding our civilization back? What are the ancient regressions we are supposedly meant to cut off next to join the wider universe? It is a fascinating, if provocative, framework to consider. Thanks so much for joining me on this deep dive.